Welcome to day 3, to Berlinale Talents, to a very, very, very special talk. And we're very thankful to have Zacharias Kunuk here with us, whose film is being shown in Generation. We're very thankful for Jonathan Friends from the Isuma Production house to join us as well. And I hand over to a very special, dear colleague who's been kind of traveling with Berlinale Talents for almost from the beginning, like me. But so have a great conversation, Marjorie, and take over. And I wish you an inspiring talk. Thank you so much for coming and visiting us.
Thanks very much, Nicola, and thank you all for coming this afternoon, this very chilly afternoon. I am very proud and honored to have been asked to do this conversation, to have this conversation with Zacharias Kunuk, who was here and whose films were also represented for a while at the Berlinale Native, which was a section that was running from 2013 to 2019 at the Berlin International Film Festival. And today we have a talk called Stories from Igloolik, Indigenous Voices in Cinema. So welcome, Zach. I will ask you to grab your mic. And then my very first question is going to be, what do you think about the quality of our snow here in Berlin?
It's like spring here to me.
It's a bit of a joke, I think. I remember when you came last time, you said like, oh, this is nice spring weather. And it was like, yeah, probably. But for us, I mean, I'm tropical. So I'm very much freezing by now. And so the idea of this talk is to like going with the topic of listening courageously that we have at Berlinale Talents this year. One of the, let's say, pioneer projects in Indigenous cinema or in divulging Indigenous voices has been your project with Isuma TV. Would you like to tell us a bit how you got inspired to go with this project? How did you get started with that?
Well, I was born on the land, and I was 9 years old when I came to Igloolik. And in Igloolik, they had, in the community hall, they had movie nights, and we would try to sneak in the way we can, and I would start sculpture, so I would try to sell it to teachers. If they give me money, and then I can get it. From there, seeing movies, they look a lot like legends. This happens, and revenge happens, and something good happened at the end. And I remember first time when I saw Frankenstein in our community. It was the scariest movie that I ever seen, everybody's seen. We were on the front seat of the road. By the time it started, we were at the back.
Running away from the screen?
Yeah, running away from the screen. Yeah, that's how I came to Igloolik to learn English. Because I'm on the Anglican side, more strict than Catholic. That's how I grew up. I never heard my parents sing ayaya songs because it was forbidden by the church. But bedtime stories. I heard Atanarjuat story, this man running naked out on the ice, never forgot it, and you fall asleep. And next night, telling my mother to rewind, go back, so I could hear the rest of the story. So that's the world I came to, living in a sod house with the ice porch and jump on my caribou suit and go outside. We're the only people on earth. That's what I thought. But that's my world.
Yeah. And how, how did you come to the idea to just start making films? To grab a camera, or what was your first impulse to start documenting your world?
Like I was carving soapstone to go to movies. By the time I was a teenager, I was doing better, and I was selling my bigger carvings down south to like Montreal. I was dealing with galleries. One time I came down to Montreal, and I remember in 1980, 81, I saw my carvings, and I wanted a camera because I heard, I was interested in still photography, 35 millimeter, and trying to find out which camera is the best camera in the call. Like I'm experimenting with Nikon, Canon, Olympus, Pentax, all these cameras to see which one is the best. But when I heard you could own a moving picture camera, that's for me. I mean, I wanted one, so I sold my carvings, and I got a camera, Sanyo color camera, photo pack, tripod, and I got a 26-inch TV with a VCR, because in the late 70s, in middle 70s, my community was keeping TV out. They didn't want TV in 75 because there's nothing in our language. But as young teenagers, we wanted TV, but our adults were keeping it away. The next chance we got was like 79, 78, 79, but still, no, we didn't win. But I remember in 1983, we got one channel, CBC channel. But I already had TV, and I remember I was trying out my camera, and I just picked this camera from a Black's camera shop, took it up north, took it to my house, tried it out. It said color. I've gone to school, I could read the manual, but it said color, but I was getting black and white. Like I'm shooting events, Easter events, and till a cameraman was in Igloolik and showed me, and this is how you get color. It's just color balance switch. So, yeah. I wanted to record my people, but my people sometimes, you're trying to act like a Kaluna, but that didn't stop me.
Act like a what, sorry?
Like a white man.
Like a white man, yeah. Yeah. But that didn't stop you, and then you went ahead and decided to make your first documentaries and features, but you started with the documentaries, right? And then went on to feature films.
Yeah.
And maybe we can watch a little clip of your first feature film. Yeah. The clip number 1, please. And this is a recurring theme also in your films, this kind of tradition of asking for a bride, and how life is within the igloos. How did you come up with the idea? Like, what inspired you to choose this as your topic in your first feature?
Well, I know that most proposals got approved, and I heard some stories, few got disapproved. So I wanted to see, what if I have a scene where this young man proposed and get the no answer. And I wanted to see how his face would look. And in 1988, I know what I want, this is what I want. I know the set, they can build it, and they make their own beddings and sittings, but they improvise their own lines. But I tell them, this is what I want. There's a young man going to come in to propose, and you give him a no answer, and see what happens. And this is what I got. And at the start, I'm just shooting in the igloo, and he started scratching his back. That was a bonus for me. And it felt so good. And that was, I didn't tell them to do that, they just did it.
So, because they felt comfortable with you making the film, because it was like somebody from the community just portraying the community and just like feeling comfortable around you. Because there were, this was the first fiction feature film that was made in your language, in Inuktitut, right? There have been like the outsider cinema trying to do a lot of portrayals about your community, but you really inspired and like impulsed people to start making film within the community. Can you tell us about how this, like how did you feel when it just started getting like some momentum and more younger people were also hanging out with you, trying to make films as well? And
when we make a film like this, everybody has to be in, even children, young people, all included. What drove me to do this was I went to work for Inuit Broadcasting Corporation, where we did a terrific interviews with elders, and you go back to your editing table and you have no footage of what they're talking about. So I wanted to recreate, and this was one of my first ones, Kagyak. Yeah, we're just trying to do what we can.
to get some material in your language as well, and with original acting, so to say. I would like to just make a statement or a little parenthesis about the language preservation and language communities, because in the world there are about 7,000 spoken languages, out of which 6,700 are indigenous languages, out of which half are endangered of disappearing in this century, actually. And like minorities are challenged worldwide to keep their languages alive. And I think in your case with Inuktitut and the way that you have been not just preserving the language, but also like doing a lot of work into distributing the films, like not just making them for you and the 5 people around you, but also like trying to get them out there and then bringing it to international platforms and international festivals is a really big job in creating consciousness for this situation of language. And how do you find the reception or the how do you say, the openness of the world outside your community to your film? And how like, did you make this as a conscious decision to go outside and try to spread the word as much as possible, or yeah?
Yeah, when I was starting out a film like this, I wanted to show it through the system, the networks. But I remember being told, you dub your language to English, we could show it. Well, I didn't want to do a dub, because I've seen some bad kung fu movies and I don't want my films to look like that. So I stuck with subtitles, put subtitles instead of dubbing it into English, and put subtitles. That's what I did.
And the reception was better in that case? Like, would they show it with the subtitles? Were they more open to show it, or were they still bothering about dubbing?
Using subtitles is just a guide for my southern audience to see what's happening. And sometimes we hear Inuktitut that's not translated, just normal. I just wanted to hear Inuktitut.
And would you describe the impact when you traveled around your community with this film at the beginning, in the early days? How would people feel? How were the reactions? How was the feedback that you got from your community?
I thought people in my area were going to do it, but I found myself doing it because we were the last community to be televised, and then we're the first. And putting it out on TV. because that's the thing also I found when I brought my TV back into my community when we had no TV. When I would have a friend in Ottawa record some cartoons for me, and I would play them on my tape, and all the kids outside would be glued to my window. And sometimes a lot of kids are visiting me, watching TV. So this is the future, so let's put our culture in there. That was the idea.
With the success of your film from 2001, Atanarjuat, it really came into the worldwide stage, what you were doing. Maybe we can watch a clip, the clip number 2, which is a small excerpt of this film, and then we can talk a bit about that. And this was a clip from Atanarjuat, the Fast Runner, from 2001, which was premiered at the Cannes Film Festival and won a very special award, the Golden Camera, yes. And it really created a lot of awareness within the filmmaking industry, especially in Europe, about indigenous filmmaking in general. And as you mentioned earlier, this was the story about the naked runner on the ice that you were hearing about when you were a child. Could you tell us a bit more how you got to making this film?
Yeah, I heard about this story about this naked man running out on the ice, because we don't do this. we never do this. And running for his life, naked. But at the start of the film, you see these women coming down and running, seeing their tents down, and this Atanarjuat brother, older brother, stabbed to death. And they're crying. Real tears coming out, and our jaws are down and cut. And my sound man had run out of battery. And I was mad, because it was springtime. I was walking back and forth in the gravel. But we go to that running man, and how he shot this is always interesting, because we have no tracks. We didn't use any tracks to shoot this, or a steady cam running beside him. So what we did was we put our cameraman on the sled. And we knew that we put dogs, they're going to make too much noise, so we put some of the crew to pull the sled. And pull the sled and push the sled. So we found a good patch of ice, and we kept going back and forth on this while we were shooting this running man. And yeah, it was that ice where he falls into the water is ice cold. Yeah, that's how we did it. And we were running out of time. The ice is about to go, and we need this scene. And so we found this last patch of ice that was still stuck to the land, and we shot this.
And how was the actor? What was his feeling about running naked in the snow, which is something that you don't do?
Everybody was interested to see it. I mean, we all know this story. This is an international story. When I went to Greenland, people knew this story. And so everybody just heard it through their ears. Now we're acting it out. It was good for the people.
And this is what you do, what you love doing, and what your community appreciates you for, which is like bringing to life these stories, but also bringing to life the tradition and the skills. Like, could you tell us a bit more about, because these are all period films or historical films, how do you go about the production design, the costume design? Who is involved in doing all of this?
in this Atanarjuat run, there's 3 guys running after him, and the first runner he has this strange costume. It's made out of eider ducks. Eider ducks is a duck. So because he was going to fall in the water, and we have to make him float. So we had this special coat made because we also knew that this kind of coat was used to in the past, and we wanted to show it in this film that we still can make it.
So reviving these, like, oral tradition has kept these things alive. Like, you knew that these things existed, but then you had to recreate them and remake them. Was the skill still, did somebody still know how to do this, or?
We're acting for our culture. We're telling our story. We're trying our best, and this is what we get.
Thank you. All right, I'm trying to find my order in my notes right now. We're talking about the broadcasters in Canada that wouldn't take your films without subtitles. And no, I remember talking to Jonathan about this, how now there's like for many years you've been fighting to get the channel Isuma TV, which is available online and has a lot of indigenous content, not just Inuit content, to also be part of the national broadcasting. I don't remember the words of that right now. Could you tell us what happened in October? Like how now it has been, it's obligatory for people in Canada to have this channel as part of the basic package.
I know John could talk more about that because I'm more on the talent side.
Okay.
Because that's where I always put myself, on the talent side. The finances, I'll let John do it.
Maybe just a second about that, because I love this story.
Sure, thank you. So what we're referring to is a channel called Ovugut TV. So it's an all Inuit language channel that we've been applying and talking with the Canadian Radio Television Commission to get approval for. And so in October of this past year, it was finally approved after a 4-year application. So now all of our content and other Inuit language content is in front of 10 million homes across the country, and comes with significant financing to allow us to trigger more films, train more Inuit creative people, and hopefully expand the production even further. So big landmark for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's all about the availability, making this content available for people to just know that, like, see themselves on screen, know that it exists, and be inspired to just continue speaking their own language as well, and then keeping their tradition alive. You also made, you didn't only always make films about 4,000 years ago. There were also films that you were trying to portray more recent events in history, like, for example, the One Day in the Life of Noah Piugatuk, where you were describing a very specific talk that took place. Could you tell us a bit about how you rescued what happened there, how you decided to recreate this specific event in history, which changed a lot for your community?
I've heard this story from our late partner, who experienced this while they were out on the ice, and this government agent came, and they had a meeting out on the ice, and what was being said, he told me this story, and one day we finally got to make it, and there was still one more person who was in that meeting still alive. So I talked to him just to get to know what was being said in this meeting. And this is what we got.
Maybe we can watch a bit of that. It's clip number 5. And this is a talk that took place, as you said, and it changed many things for your community, and you wanted to tell a story. Can you let us know what turning point this is portraying?
Well, I know when Inuit started to learn the English language and translations, there was a lot of mistranslations. And I wanted to show that in the very important meeting, how translation can be done wrong. I mean, they don't have enough education. And this is how probably I imagine that translation was going back and forth, missing a lot of words, not getting to the point. That's what I wanted to show in this film, of how when Inuit were ordered to move off the land and come into these communities, so they'll be closer to the store, to the health center, and go to the school. That's what this man was trying to do, get them, lure them to the school and promising them that you'll have house, your rent will be $2, $2 a month. And Inuit never forgot that, because that was just to be lured into the communities.
Taken away from their own traditional way of living, and yeah, which is what you're trying to rescue as well in your films. And moving to the tradition of storytelling in your community and image. You were talking about how you were selling your carved little sculptures to get your camera, to get started to become a filmmaker. The oral storytelling is very, how do you say, it's millenary in your culture, and it's very clear how it's been passed on from generation to generation. But how about the image culture? Like the images, the pictures, because you said first you also were interested in still photography, then you went into film. Is there like a strong image preservation within the culture that you're also trying to share or to rescue with your films?
Well, everybody is trying to save the language. Different programs are trying to save the language. In my community, when you first go to school, the first 3 years you're learning Inuktitut. From Head Start, maybe to grade 2, you only learn Inuktitut. So, and after that, you learn English all the way up to grade 12. With this system, we think we grab our language in the students' head first, and then learn English. That's how it was like that, because we don't want to lose our language. And for us doing it in film, I think other filmmakers are doing it, and we're doing our part.
And the influence of films like Frankenstein or some westerns, because now I'm going to move a bit more into your more newer films. What were your favorite films when you were growing up?
John Wayne, the cavalry, and we're fighting with the Indians, and we go out, because the scouts didn't come back, we go out and find them, they're all dead. Arrows everywhere. And what kind of savages did this? He shouts, our hero. But then I learned there's two sides to every story. Maybe the story is different. And I also know when I watched John Wayne movies, they didn't care about what do you call it? Contingency, where you're supposed to have white hat.
So you know who the good guys and the bad guys are?
No. When we're filming, if you have this clothes on, you stay with it, because tomorrow we're going to shoot the same scene. Yeah, continuity. And I watch John Wayne movies one 1 minute he has a black hat, 1 minute, the next he has a white hat. And the next minute he has a shirt, and different shirt. That was shocking to me, because in my movies, we always tried not to do that, never do that.
So you watch them a lot to be able to notice that, and it's an interesting take that you grew up on this language of westerns, or this was one of your preferred films to watch, and the western is usually, well, traditionally told from the point of view of the colonizers going into communities and not caring about who is there, just like conquering and going forth. So it's almost subversive for you to do to make western, or to try to take this language and genre and put it into your films, told from the point of view of indigenous people in the north, in the very icy, like, which is the how would you say, the contrary weather of where the westerns were usually told. Let's talk a bit about Igloolik, which is your film. The Searchers was the English name for it, and it was a straightforward Western dramaturgy, but very much told in the ice. What was your main inspiration for this film, and why did you want to tell this story?
At one point, I wanted to do reverse anthropology. What if we do it our way? So, like John Wayne stories, what if we do research just our way? I mean, our guys are bad guys, and there's good guys, and we heard that women would get tied to the sled so they won't escape. I heard about that, and here we try to show it. But yeah, we just try to follow John Wayne's, how he did it.
Yeah, let us watch the clip 4B from a scene which describes exactly what you're talking about, the tying of the sleds. And in this scene of the film, the bad guys had just gotten in to steal the wives and were running away and were being chased by the good guys. How is this thing about stealing the wives? It seems to be also a recurring theme in your films.
Well, in the film, he's tracking them.
Tracking.
He knows that they're going to camp sometime, so he goes on top of the hill and scopes. And you see him in the Western movies. We sometimes see something glare on top of the hills, and we try to do that, like the Western movies, so to show that there's somebody there. Yeah, but working with dogs is pretty difficult.
Yeah, I bet. And just as a little parenthesis, Jonathan France is also the cinematographer of this film, together with somebody else that I forgot his name, but you can look it up. So we're happy to have you here. And it was also a beautifully, the cinematography changes from this point onwards in your films. It becomes more wide and more like this kind of John Wayne, let's say. How is your fascination for the genre moved throughout your storytelling?
Well, in the movies, at the end, you, as a filmmaker, we climax it at the end. So this is coming to the climax. Yeah, that's how we do it. I mean, that's how it's supposed to be done, right?
Supposed to be, yeah, probably. And in your new film, the Wrong Husband, the film that's showing here in Generation, that you had the world premiere, was it last night? Congratulations. This is it's a bit of a bittersweet story, I found. It has these very sweet family relationships, and it seems to give you a lot of contrast in emotions between very sweet moments and very difficult moments, and then this shamanism, this magical element which we hadn't seen in your earlier films. It's really, really present here. But it's always something that's within the storytelling, that there has always been part of the storytelling aspect, like the belief of omens and other supernatural forces. But here you decided to materialize that in this film. How did you come to this point of materializing those more supernatural elements of the storytelling in your culture?
I was finding myself, these films that I'm doing, because I'm from the Arctic, I'm doing all winter scenes, like winter movies, and I wanted to do a summer movie, where it's not too hard on the camera, not too hard on the crew. This story, Uiksaringitara, I know there's a story about this man who married this woman and lived with her, but she's promised to another man. I heard that they were happy, they had 2 children, but the right husband came. In this culture, what's promised is promise. So in that story I heard they fought for this woman, and the winner takes the woman. But the right husband brought an elder with him, probably a shaman. So there we got the story. And also in Uiksaringitara, we heard about trolls. When I was a child, we were always warned not to wander too far from our tents, because in the summertime you could hear them knocking on the ice. And so the troll is, when we wrote Wrong Husband, we knew the story, we wrote the story, but why are they doing that? I asked myself, what makes them do that? So what if we incorporate shamanism, and the shamans are controlling the humans, and the trolls are their helpers, their helping spirit. So, because I always do my films in the winter time, I had this idea that I was going to have a blowing snow spirit. Every time the wind is blowing, the face starts to come. That was my idea, but we're going to do summer. So I created this fog lady. It appears in smoke, and it's a good spirit. And I want the guy that we're doing the soundtrack, let her appear like an angel. And, because I wanted to have signature sound before a spirit is about to appear. So gave her a signature sound. And we know that caribou spirit is a good spirit and the most strongest spirit of all animals. So I had that in the good shaman side, and the bad side had the wolf. The black wolf had the troll, and then these are in the film. So that's how we weaved it in, and it works better. That's this way.
It adds to the like materializes the symbolic part of the whole story. Let's show a clip from that film. Now I'm trying to think which one. I think maybe the burial scene, the clip number 6, please. And we can see the clear difference between a summer landscape and a winter landscape over there. And by the way, there's 3 more screenings happening at the festival, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, check it out on the program if you want to watch the whole film. This is a fairy tale, a 4,000-year-old fairy tale somehow. And this is the point where life changes for the protagonist because she loses her dad. but it's still, it might seem from the clips that we've seen that there's a lot of death and sadness in your films, but there are also like more positive moments, of course, in your films. But how do you feel about this, like portraying such a scene? Yeah.
Yeah, and in my research, I learned that one time when they were doing a burial, they would stuck caribou hair in the left nostril, probably to maybe the body is bloated, it's starting to stink. Maybe that's the reason why. But I heard this. I've never heard it before. But when I heard it, I wanted to put it in this film. Also, that thing that he's twisting, we have that, makes a sound. But I also know in Australia, the Aborigines have that too. They do it over their head. But I don't know how we got it, but I wanted to show that and it just blends well with this funeral walk. And in the olden days, Inuit believed you just put the body on the ground. But if you put rocks on top of it, they were afraid that the soul is trapped in there. It's only when Christianity came when we started burying our dead, putting crosses. So that was the belief that I wanted to show that long time ago. This is how they did it.
And generally, this is stuff that you are getting, like all of this knowledge and all of these ideas about traditions. These are things that you hear from elders. How is, now you are an elder yourself. How is this dynamics of passing on the knowledge? How do you feel from where it's coming from and where you're giving it to?
Being born in 1957, going through the changes, being on the Anglican side, where our culture is bulldozed and forbidden to talk about. But as I was growing up, I'm finding this out. For 4,000 years, we haven't changed. But then, why change now? Because of somebody wants us to believe their God, to pray to their God, and that's my next project.
Great, looking forward to that one. Where was I going? Wait a minute. Fascination for, no, we already went through that. The audiences. Like you said earlier, we were having a talk that you were making the film also for your people, for your family, for your friends. But it's your goal to show it to younger audiences as well, like within your community. Do you consider it also important to transcend the community? Like for this knowledge or this information that you're putting into your films to go also beyond the community? Like here, I mean, we're sitting in Berlin, spring weather Berlin. And is this also like one of your primary goals when doing your films, like getting out beyond the community as well?
The plan is that we get this right. We set the set right. We get the story right. Because 100 years from now, when we're 6 feet in the ground, they will study these films. So we try to do everything right. Even in the background, we try to do it right. The dog with the pack. We heard these stories that when they walked in land, dogs were carrying their gear because they're on their feet. They're carrying food, tent equipment, sleeping bags, and some are carried by the humans. So now there'll be only as stories, because our kids are now glued to their iPods everywhere, even in my community. So it's important for me to get this right, get them out there, film them as fast as we can, because our elders are dying the knowledge is dying away. Every time an elder dies, our knowledge is gone. So we're trying to record as much as we can right now.
Yeah, and that's really admirable, and we're very grateful for that, and I'm very sure that your community is also very grateful for that. And I would like to open also for questions from the audience, but before going there, maybe one last scene or one last clip from your new film, which gives also a bit of a more positive, let's say, lively idea of also what you're trying to portray within the feelings of your film, and that would be clip number 8, please. Thanks. Would we have any questions from that side here? Is there a microphone around? Yes. So back there and then here. Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah, thanks a lot for your work. I'm just wondering, I know there are some, I'm familiar with films about indigenous people produced in the United States, right, about American Indians, right? So as far as I understand, your perspective is more like as a Canadian filmmaker, can you tell the difference maybe, or there's some connection between these two like countries and like filmmakers from these two countries and, you know, these films about like indigenous people, like...
I didn't. Could you speak more slowly?
Yeah,
sorry, I really didn't get it.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
Yeah, I speak about production like of films about indigenous people in the United States and Canada, because I'm familiar with some films produced in the United States, maybe more about like American Indians, indigenous people, and I understand that this is more about Canadian context, right? So my question is like, is there a connection, or how is it different to make films about indigenous people in Canada and in the United States, you know, like, so, yeah. Does make sense?
Like the difference between making indigenous films in Canada and in other countries? Is
And
that...
in the United States of America.
United States?
Yes, yes.
Ah.
Because I know there are some films produced in the United States about indigenous people, you know, but maybe it's more about American Indians, so, yeah.
Yeah, I really didn't. Yeah, I mean, Zach, you are making your films in Canada, yes, I mean, in Nunavut. And if there's any similarities or any connection to you with indigenous filmmakers from the United States and the way that they make their films? I think that's the question, like the connection or the similarities between your way of filmmaking than... I guess.
I don't know if I'll answer you correctly, but I'm a typical director, and I know there's a lot of dialects in my region, and I stick to my region. And like, I know some other filmmakers would do casting call, and they get people from all over and different. They don't care about dialects, different dialects, or if it's an Indian that looks like an Eskimo, maybe gets on the film. But I don't want to do that. I stick with my group, my region, the Amito region, because it's one dialect. That's the area that I'm recording, because I want other dialects to do it themselves too. So maybe one day I'll cast actors and get all kinds of experience, but I don't know. I'm sticking to my my region.
First of all, thanks for your talk today, and I really appreciate your amazing film. I have a question about the sound and music in the film. So I felt, while watching clips, I felt music in the film works very well and put up a lot of dynamics in the scene itself. So I was wondering, you choose the music or sound before start the shooting, or how is the process of choosing music, or you hire a composer just like that?
Yeah, we work with Inuit musicians. So Tanya Tagaq was, you heard in the Searchers film, Pixic, Inuit sisters who have adapted throat singing to make it more modern. So they're featured in Wrong Husband. But we do, Zach does, we use temp tracks that we do the rough cut edit with, just to give the tempo and the feel that we like, and then turn it over to the musicians with some cues from Zach of where he wants a extra hit or some emotional notions, and then we let the musicians also provide their own thoughts, improvise or give other ideas or feelings of how the film speaks to them, and then it all comes together in a sound studio in Montreal, where Zach and I and a few of our team are there with the mixers, and that's when the real fine-tuning comes to place, where we'll say, well, that's too much there, let's soften this, let's hear the voices a little bit more. So that's where the kind of fine details come together. Mm.
Thank you.
Yes, hello. Thank you so much for this talk. I'm a producer. I'm coming from Brazil, and I've been working with a collective of Yanomami, indigenous filmmakers, for a while. And I wanted to share an experience and hear from you what do you feel about this, because as you know, Yanomami right now are facing lots of struggles due to gold illegal mining. So that leads to health questions, and so they're facing many problems at this time. And I worked with this collective of directors that recently released short films. And one of the short films is called A Woman Thinking, and it's like a poetic film, very beautiful, very sensitive. And I've heard some critics from audiences, non-indigenous audiences, that were expecting images of the disaster. And this filmmaker, she chose to tell a story, a different story, because she wanted to tell her story from her perspective and not show the disaster images happening. And I wanted to hear from you if you think that non-indigenous audiences have already some expectations of what would be indigenous cinema, of what it should look like.
I think it's referring to the fact that Western or Southern, for you, audiences have a specific expectation of what the kind of storytelling should look like coming from indigenous communities. For her coming from Brazil, that it's not so accepted to tell just a regular story, or just in your case, have you ever faced this kind of I wouldn't say rejection, but kind of why are you doing a film like this, or why are you doing a film like that? You should be talking about this subject or that subject. Do you ever feel this kind of pressure? Maybe is that what you're trying to say?
I don't know. I've never had that experience, because in my community, I talk to my elders and get a proof. If I do this, is it right? Can I do this? So when I get approved, I do it. That's how I work. And for the burial scene, they tied them into a caribou skin. This is how they did it, and we acted out. These things I do.
I think also going back to your subject, it's about the expectation. Like Zach is also a filmmaker who does it from within the community, and I think the approval of the community is really much more relevant and more important than the, let's say, Eurocentric Western way of seeing things, right?
Because every time we're in production, it's our community working together, making props, making costumes. That's our community, and I wish other communities, different DAOs, could do that. But I don't want to come into your territory and tell you what to do. But I'm on my own turf.
Yeah, that's a really great answer. One more question, I guess. Yes.
Yeah. Thank you for being here. I was wondering, in a couple of the clips we saw certain gender roles and dynamics play out, the woman being fought for or taken away or given away, and I was wondering if that's changed over time in your community, and if gender roles generally play a conscious role in your filmmaking or are kind of adapted to the situation.
Gender roles, yes. How have gender roles changed over time within your community?
They haven't changed. I don't think so. John?
I don't think the wife stealing is happening the same way that we depicted 4,000 years ago. But there's certainly, I mean, some of our more recent, we did a film called Tautoktavat that deals with some of the challenges in a modern day situation with violence and other things that are happening. So I think it's always there, maybe not as progressive as Southern communities in terms of how things are defined. But looking at the history, I guess, maybe trying to inform how things are happening, or a bit of this bridge between traditional values being adapted into the modern way is, I think, something that our films look at a lot, and just kind of pose the viewer to ask questions themselves of where they're situated and how it impacts their life and thoughts.
Thank you. Yes. And sorry, and this one, and we have time for one more question. I think I saw a hand over here.
Great. First of all, thanks so much. I learned so much. My entire page is full of notes, so I appreciate it. I'm a little bit nervous to ask this question. It's funny we had the question about the American Indians. I'm from the States. I'm from Washington State, and I live in a community with many descendants from Lychee people. And when I talk to them and I talk to their families, one of them told me that she is one of 10 people who can still speak their language, as we've talked about this entire time. And that's really profound to me. And to me, I hear that and I say, oh, there's no more important movie for me to make. This is something that I have to be involved in, but I also struggle that it feels a little bit exploitative for me outside of the community. And so I was wondering if you had any advice on how I could manage that storytelling aspect without feeling like that exploitative white guy who just wants to make a movie about someone who's different than me.
That's okay. So Zach said he doesn't know how to answer that. Yeah, it's a complicated question, I guess. I mean, because it's more about how you are going to feel. I mean, all indigenous communities, I guess, maybe I'll just jump in here, have gone through this ethnographical kind of outsiders coming and just documenting everything in their own way. But in some cases, as I was hearing from Jonathan, it's also a way of keeping an archive, and it will depend on what your attitude is towards the thing. I mean, if you feel that you're exploiting, then don't do it. I mean, that would be my way of seeing things. I'm jumping in maybe a little bit too much, but if you feel that it's exploiting already, it's probably a good idea to leave your hands off of it. But in a way, I guess there's also a really great document in Canada for the filmmaking approach into indigenous communities called Protocols and Pathways, and maybe that's something you can find online and you can read about it, about how to approach indigenous communities with respect and simply see if it is your place to tell a story or not, or to work with and collaborate with or not. Yeah, that's on the website of Telefilm, is it, or something? IS Indigenous Screen Office, exactly. It's called Protocols and Pathways, and it's kind of a guide for the outsider, in a way, to get a grasp of how to approach, because it's a very delicate process, how to do it the right way, and respectful, I guess. It's about respect. Now I'm jumping in here, but it's not me, but yeah.
Maybe a few years ago, when climate change was starting to be talked, all the scientists went up north, stick the thermometer and recorded, "Hello, we're here." They never talked to us. So I decided to do a documentary about that, about what Inuit think about climate change. You know, what they were talking to me that, yeah, when I was a child, the sun used to rise in the same place, but today it sets past the mountain. It used to go down by the mountain. I mean, things like that. That fascinated me. Why is it our world warming up? And the Inuit were saying it's not from the sky, it's from the sea. So I don't know. I'm recording this.
Which is a great documentary film, and you can find it on Isuma TV, and it's called Inuit Knowledge and Climate Change, which is a really like a good grasp on how the questions that the scientists are making themselves have already been observed by the elders in the Inuit community regarding climate change and the Arctic, this very specific northern, like Nunavut Arctic. So yeah, thanks. And one last question, I think, was here.
Yeah, first of all, thank you for your talk. And I was wondering, and you were tapping into it already a bit, are there like, or when you create your stories, are there parts that you don't show because when you ask your elders, they say, no, we don't want to share it? And is it structured in your community like that, that they decide like what should be in and what not? And are there maybe other people inside your community that don't like to share because they feel it's too intimate and they want to keep it inside the community?
When I do my research, I'm basically going after what I want to do and if it's okay. That's what I'm asking. Is it okay if I built this monster, and is it okay because hardly anybody ever seen this monster? But few people have seen the monster and know what it looks like. Is it okay for me to put it in my movie? Of course. I mean, when I talk to my elders, that's the same thing they tell me. When we were children, that was the message we were getting from our parents, not to wander too far, because, or the troll will get you. And in this story, the troll gets the boy, but it's from the wrong, it's from the spirit, it's from the fog spirit. And that's why you see that girl with white hair.
I guess, yes. Thank you. Well, there's another couple of questions. You can come down here because I think we have to kind of wrap it up now. I'm looking at the clock. We have like 1 minute and 30 seconds. It's a really good thing to have a clock on the back. Maybe just before, John, would you tell everybody when the next screenings of the film are going to be? Just to keep it in line.
I don't know exactly, but I know tomorrow. I know there's 3 more screenings, so just check the program guide. And there was one this morning that was really well attended, and then 3 more over the festival. And then we don't know beyond here where the film will be, so we'll post information online when we know. Yeah, thank you very much.
All right. And thank you all, and thank you, Zach, so much for sharing your stories with us today. And we wish you a good rest of the talents. Thanks, everyone.